Hey there, all my new clients out there. So, there are certain life changes that should always trigger a policy review. And most people don't realize that until something tends to fall off. So, these are just some of those triggers, but there are certainly more. But the big ones are if you've gotten married or divorced recently, if you've had a baby, or perhaps your children are grown and out of the house and not necessarily your responsibility, especially financially. Maybe you've changed jobs or retired, or now you're self-employed, or you've opened up your own business. Perhaps you've bought a house or bought a larger or even a smaller house, that was not necessarily the house that you owned when you got your insurance policy, or that you've taken on some sort of new debt. Perhaps you've experienced some sort of health change. So maybe, 5, 10 years ago, you didn't have the chronic illness that you have now, or maybe you're on new medication that you weren't on previously, or you even just haven't looked at your policy in a few years. So these are all signs that it's time to review what you have. And it's very important to realize that a policy review doesn't automatically mean that you're going to change coverage or spend more money. Sometimes it's just confirming that what you have still fits your life. So, a very basic policy review is going to include reviewing information like your contact information. So, is your mailing address correct? Is your email address correct? Your communication preferences. Did you sign up for emails? Did you sign up to have a physical renewal sent to you every year by mail? Who are the beneficiaries if it's a life insurance or some sort of annuity product? And what are those coverage amounts? So, insurance is really meant to evolve as your life does. And when it doesn't, that's when gaps can happen. And those gaps usually show up sort of when you least expect them. So the example that I always like to use with this is a person who maybe has had the same health insurance policy for years and years and years, and just renewed it and just paid whatever the new premium is. Well, telemedicine and virtual visits were not as popular 5 years ago as they are today. And there are even policies that offer $0 copayments for those type of virtual visits that weren't necessarily available even 5 years ago. So you certainly would want to know whether or not your policy included that coverage. And if it does, how do you access that? Maybe that's something that you've never really needed to look at in the past, but it would be really helpful for you now. So that's just one example of the different ways that policies can kind of get away from us if we don't review them with some amount of routine or just some amount of regularity. So, if any of these changes sound familiar to you, it is definitely time for a conversation. It doesn't need to be rushed. It doesn't need to be salesy. It's just a check in to make sure that your coverage still makes sense for your life. And if not, you can certainly discuss making modifications to them, or perhaps looking at getting a new product that maybe makes sense for you down the road. I tell clients often that, life changes really quickly. It's amazing what 5 years can do to your circumstances. So it's really important to look at this information at least once a year, just to make sure that it still makes sense for you and your life and your needs, especially your budget. So, as always, feel free to reach out. You can call, you can text, you can schedule a call with my Calendly link, and we can review all of those details. So, I hope you found this helpful, and I can't wait to touch base in 2026. Have a great one.